This is Ahman Green, and welcome to BLEAV in Packers. And we had a fantastic game this weekend between the Broncos and my Green Bay Packers. But unfortunately, we had injuries, and that is the game of football. So to get right into it off the jump, we got Dr. David Chao in to join me here on BLEAV in Packers to talk about the injuries that the two fantastic athletes, acquired during this game. So we'll start with we'll start with Christian Watson first because we know we got a lot to talk about with Micah Parsons. But with Christian Watson's injury, Dr. Chow, so I know what I saw as an athlete. I saw his shoulder drive into the turf from him reaching for a pass, and I'm like, oh, that's not a good positioning for your body when you hit the ground. So let's take it a little deeper in your aspects of what you saw when Christian came down on his elbow.
Yeah, and I'm pleased to be on. I'm thrilled to be on the same side of the field, so to speak. Now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too.
From Charter days, we played you, and you were good there, a beast there.
Thank you.
Christian Watson, he went down his elbow, as you said correctly, then shoulder, and then the defender a little bit on top of him. Mm-hmm. And of course, was it wind? Was it head? Was it shoulder? And look, it could have been shoulder, AC joint, but I do think it was SC joint, sternoclavicular joint. As he went down, the whole axial load, no clavicle fracture. I'm sure they got an x-ray, but he got sent to the hospital for the sternoclavicular joint injury, the SC joint. Famous SC joint injuries include Tyreek Hill, right? A few years back. Hollywood Brown had one more recently. And it's the same land awkwardly and folding the shoulder in. Why the hospital? Because if the SC joint is displaced, it can press on the great vessels. And what happens when you reduce it? And he had a CT scan, which is what? Good for bone. It's not lung. And they said not lung. It's CT scan is good for bone. So he had a CT scan. Why? Away game, let's make sure there's nothing there when we get on the plane and fly, etc. The good news is they didn't have to reduce it. No big structural damage, but it also unfortunately means Christian Watson seems unlikely to play this week. The SC joint is weakened, and because it's near your great vessels, that's not a joint that you typically want to inject, feel no pain, and make it worse because there are repercussions. And I think you can comment on this too, reputationally. And I love your team physician. I think he's awesome, right? He's been along
Dr. Pat McKenzie,
friend. And I say this in the kindest and positive ways. He's known, and the Packers are known to be very conservative. Correct. Like, you guys don't inject a lot of things and do a lot of rib blocks and do a lot. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm saying that's a good thing. And in this case,
very good thing.
The SC joint is not something that you necessarily want to inject for that reason. And the SC joint can be honestly more sore than the AC joint at the end here. So I don't see Christian Watson going on injured reserve, but I don't see him, although he could, I don't see him playing this week. I don't see him going on injured reserve, but he's more likely to go on injured reserve than play this week. I think it's neither. I think it's somewhere in between. Is my best guess or thought on Christian Watson. But the good news, Jayden Reed for the first time looked pretty good. And I was always more worried about his foot with the 5th metatarsal stress fracture than the collarbone. We knew the collarbone he was going to be healed from. It's the foot and his route running and cutting. And he started to look like himself this week.
Yeah, and I had that 5th metatarsal stress fracture and played with it too. So
I mean,
never
one of
missed
your rivals, Roma Dunes,
right?
He's got that, and we were like fading him, saying, "Look, 1 week of rest doesn't solve the 5th metatarsal. You can attest to that." Exactly. And he was active, and then couldn't play in the game this week. So, I mean, injuries all over the place here, right? And
one thing I want to bring up real quick, what you said multiple times in describing the SI joint for Christian Watson's shoulder, you said the great vessels. So explain exactly what those are. I have an idea what they are, but just clarify for myself and the viewers here.
Yeah, and the great vessels and SC, sternoclavicular joint. It was just a misspeak on your part. SI is low back. Yeah, there is an SI joint.
SC.
Yeah, it's all good. believe me, I can't repeat a play call either, so it's okay.
Right.
I'll say things wrong all the time there, Ahman. Anyways, your heart, your trachea, the
Gotcha.
aorta,
That's what I figured.
major vessels
Mhm.
underneath there. That's where you need to be. And great vessels, what I mean by great vessels, your aorta is honestly the size of a garden hose, right?
Mm,
As opposed to major arteries being the size of a straw.
correct.
That's what we call it, the great vessels. And
Understood.
that's why you want to be very, very careful there. And I brought up Roma Dunes only because you guys play him next week. And
Gotcha.
I guess he's unlikely to go, I would imagine.
Gotcha. All right, now let's get into the other main guy on this injury report list, with Micah Parsons going out with what was seen as a non-contact knee injury when it first happened, but now through the night we kind of know now it was an ACL. And so, what is your? I say, was that what your diagnosis first? What you first saw as well, and then what is your feedback on that injury as well?
Well, from the war room that we watch all of the games,
Hmm.
and 8 games, 10 a.m. in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. By the way, I love the fact that it was 8-5. I mean, there's been weeks when it's been 9-3, right? And that's just
Wow.
hard, right? Eight
Yeah.
and five at least is manageable. And let me give a vote to the NFL. I love the 125 starts for all 5 of those games to give us a little
Nice.
break in between, right?
There
Sometimes
you
there's the
go.
1 o'clock start, it overlaps, and obviously
Yeah.
in Central Time that's a 3 o'clock start. But for us on
100%.
the West Coast, it's 10-1. In this case, 10 and 125. But yeah, when he saw it in real time, as soon as I did not see it when the play was run, but
Mhm.
people said to me in the room with the spotters, Micah Parsons went down, and TV showed the replay. And as soon as I saw the replay on the first time, I was like, oof, he just tore his left knee ACL.
Yep.
And
That's what I said.
we made a video from the war room immediately. We immediately posted. But Ahman Green, look, it's not a diagnosis. In order to make a
Correct.
diagnosis, you have to have an exam. I did
Yep.
not examine him in my 17 years in the NFL.
Mhm.
I looked at players on the field, like Pat McKenzie, on the field, on the
Yes.
sidelines, in the locker room, the next day after an MRI. I knew
Correct.
exactly what the diagnosis was. I usually had 20, 30 minutes to kill before my meeting with the GM on Monday
Yeah.
morning. And on
Right.
Monday morning, what do you all do? What does everyone in the building do? You look at film,
Yep.
right? And so I decided maybe I should look at film. I don't know. What can I learn? I already know the answer. So I looked at film of all the injuries, and the video guys were great. Brian Duddy and everybody, they
Mhm.
kept the
Yep.
video for me.
Fantastic job.
And they'd show me there. I knew exactly what the answer was because I've seen them. I knew exactly what the diagnosis was, but then I could look at the question, which is the video. And
Correct.
now that's what I do. I look at the video, and no. And by the way, I've never walked off the field not knowing an ACL was torn. Pat McKenzie
Mhm.
knew it immediately too. It just didn't get announced till after the game and then confirmed, and worry for. And the Packers actually, a lot of times teams will keep it quiet. We don't
True.
know for another
True.
24 hours. The Packers, Matt LaFleur actually at least hinted at it and said, yeah, that's our worry. It doesn't look good. But you already knew without the MRI.
Mhm.
Now you're going to talk recovery.
Yeah.
The question is it an isolated ACL? I can't tell you that off my eyes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it is. Is there additional meniscus damage, MCL or otherwise? Don't know. Uh,
Mhm.
but this is a December injury. This is a rush end, a very dynamic player.
Yes, he is.
You know, Patrick Mahomes' injury might be worse. I think there's an ACL and maybe LCL involved. And why is I'm bringing it up because it's the same day.
Correct.
But Patrick Mahomes' his injury may be worse, but he's more likely to be ready week 1 than Micah
Yeah.
Parsons. And it's because of the different positions they play.
Yes.
Now, Patrick Mahomes, will he be completely dynamic week 1? No, but he can play from the pocket. Whereas Micah Parsons needs to be dynamic to play.
Yes,
now,
he does.
I'll throw in another example, Mr. Green.
Yeah.
There's no way, no offense to you,
Okay.
there's no way in the world you could play the position of running back 5 years removed from the NFL, off your couch, 25 pounds overweight, and do anything.
Correct.
But Phillip Rivers, I get it. He came close to winning. They didn't win. But the position of quarterback did it. And way, 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 way different. Look, running back, Daniel Jones was playing through a fibula non-displaced fracture. That's way different than running back. Look,
100%.
Great Aaron Rodgers. He's, I don't know how old. If he were running back, I don't care how great he is, he would not be in the NFL today.
No.
The position's just different. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Parsons is not a good recoverer, isn't going to work hard. The positions are just totally, totally different.
Yeah. And those differences from my experience is the movements, him coming off the ball, him accelerating from a track position to try to get full speed within 3-5 yards, and then dropping his shoulder and then making a turn to the right or the left, trying to go for the quarterback. Where
instantaneous turns, dynamic, and especially at left defensive end, that outside leg around the edge.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a fraction of a second difference.
Yes, it is.
0.1 second difference between Micah Parsons and a good rush end. And it's a 0.2 difference from Micah Parsons and out of the league, right? Right? It's just right. You get what I'm saying. And the very high levels, which you guys are at, I just have so much respect for what you do and I love, like, when I look at videos of people recovering and they go, oh, he looks really good. Yeah, he looks really good, because you're thinking that pro athlete's moving very well. But that ain't NFL ready, right?
No, it's a difference.
Game conditions. Just because you turned a corner once or ran fast once, it's not the same thing. Oh, he's moving very well. Yeah, he's a professional athlete, but he's still at 80%. And 80% is not enough to be NFL ready and worthy.
Yeah, I laugh when you say 80%. I remember Mike Sherman. I had a quad tear. And then back from the quad tear, my body, I noticed, was an imbalance where I kept straining my hamstrings on my right leg only. And there was a right hamstring or right quad tear in 2005 and 06. I remember Coach Sherman, I tested out the hammy in pregame a little bit. And then Coach Sherman is like, Ahman, how you feel? I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel good. I mean, they keep it straight with him. And he said, well, Ahman, your 80% is everybody's 100%. So I was like, but I still want to be 100%, coach. If you want me out there on the football field to run the ball like the way I do. So I was like, no, I'm not playing this game.
But see,
80%, I'm gone.
I'm sure Patrick McKenzie helps some, but I've had those conversations with coaches before, and they'll say, you're 80. We really need this guy. Okay, you say he's 80%. We really need this guy. But I might say something like, for example, I literally have had these conversations before. It's okay, coach. You want this guy today with this muscle injury, but he's 80%. Yeah, but he's better than anything we have. I said, but the problem is, on one play, he might pull it again and give up give up 6 points, for a cornerback or whatever, or get hurt and now be out for the next month. See Devontae Adams, who played through a hamstring, right? A muscle injury. So I would try and give it back to them in terms like, okay, this 80% is better. And if you really need Ahman Green, because his 80% is better than the next guy at 100%, you also have to know that 80% could become 0 on one play, and you'll miss them for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So do you want to wait one more week and get more assurance? See, you got to talk coach's language. You can't just say you can't do it, right? Correct. I would have said, okay, that's fine, but you do run the risk of a setback, and then you're going to lose them for a month. Or do you want to wait a week, coach? You get the big dollars. You decide what's going to happen there, right? That's the kind of conversation I would have with them. The risk of re-injury on top of that kind of thing.
Hey, fantastic answer to that question, and thank you for the great feedback for Micah Parsons' injury and Christian Watson's injury, and in Rome as well, because the Packers got another divisional matchup with the Chicago Bears. Dr. Chao, I don't want to hold you any longer. I know you got to get going, but I really appreciate the information here on Believe in Packers.
Hit me up when you're in San Diego. All right.
I will do. I'll be
Okay.
out there soon. Talk to
All
you
right.
later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to exit.
Yep. No problem. You're welcome
Okay.
to go. Yep. All right, that was Dr. David Chao. Fantastic, I say, insight on what goes on with a football player, baseball player, or what professional athletes, because we get to the point as a player, as an athlete, as a professional, we want to be out there on the football field. We want to be out there for our teammates. We want to be out there for the coaches, and so we push ourselves, and we know the coaches are going to ask. We know the trainers are going to ask. Where you at? How you feel? Can you go out there and at least do this? Be a decoy. I've been asked to do that with injuries. Be a decoy, and that sometimes that's not, being a decoy is no. It's like it's something where you're on the field, but you're just not doing much. So if you're doing that, then you know what, I might do that. But in other stance, you just got to be mindful of your injury, and like Dr. Child said, somebody you being 80% can eventually might be able to most likely go back to 0%, depend on the movement and the injuries that take place before and after you get, out there on the football field. So thank you to Dr. Chow. Appreciate him very much. And so let's get into this game. It was a tough game for, our Packers. And with the injuries, with the score, with losing, which I knew going into this game, I didn't get a chance to preview this game last week. I was out on the road having a great time out in Minnesota, coaching some young men in football. So you look up the Native All-American All-Star game. I was the head coach of one of the teams, Tataka. I played against Levi Horn, another former NFL athlete, playing and coaching for the Waya in U.S. Bank Stadium yesterday. So go online, you can check out some of our socials. You can see what was going on. But let's get into this breakdown of this game where we saw a lot of good players. We saw two players from the Packers get hurt, and a game where I knew that it was going to be a tough game for the Packers on the run. Why? Because Denver Broncos got a young, up-and-coming quarterback that is coached by one hell of a guy in Sean Payton. I say one hell of a coach in Sean Payton, and one hell of a player and young man of Bo Nix. So right now, Packer fans, we'll get into this. So with so with this on multiple levels, the injuries, right? So Green Bay goes into Denver, plays competitive at a super high level against one of the hottest teams and the hottest quarterback, like I mentioned, with Bo Nix. And so they come up a little short, 34-26 in this matchup. The loss drops the Packers now to 9-4-1. But we already know the bigger story here. The one that overshadows everything for the Packers right now. I say one big shadow and one, and I'll say, but to me, it's two big shadows. You got Micah Parsons went down with a non-contact injury that is feared to be, and I believe has been disclosed as an ACL. And so we're gonna get into today. Let's get into the breakdown of these turning points, and later you already had the feedback of Dr. David Chao. You could check that out. And so hopefully you're on here. I mean, you already heard what he said. Fantastic insight on his expertise as being a doctor of understanding how injuries occur, the recovery, how coaches and players look at them, and then how you can come out on top as an end. So hope you check out this enjoy the vibe here, the VOD, here on Believe in Packers. So this game had everything except had everything in it for two playoff teams coming up here. So you had 6 lead changes. You had big plays on both sides of the ball. You had momentum swings. Fix my microphone wire here. Yeah, 6 lead changes, big plays on both sides, momentum swings, and a late game execution deciding the outcome. So Green Bay came out aggressive, efficiently, and efficient early in the game behind Jordan Love's command and Brandon McManus's leg. there in the beginning. So the Packers took a 16-14 lead at halftime, scoring on 4 of the first 5 drives. McManus was back in Denver, so nailed field goals of 56, 23, and 35, giving Green Bay early control in this game. But Denver never panicked. That defense played strong. The offense, it was definitely was there to match it up too, and that's been the identity of an 11-game winning streak for the Broncos. So a quote here from Sean Payton: "That's the habit we live in." Broncos coach said, "It's and it showed on that in this game." So as we move into what the Packers, with Jordan Love and getting the start of this game, so it started strong, tough finish though here for Jordan Love and the Packers, offense and defense. So Jordan Love played well, play efficiently. He moved the offense efficiently. He took advantage of the clean pocket and helped Green Bay score 23 points early in the third quarter. But the second half told a whole different story there. Okay, so after the opening with a touchdown, the drive to go up 23-14, Green Bay and had Denver on the ropes in that moment. So the Broncos went 3 and out, and this was the moment. Instead, on first down, Love took a shot to Christian Watson, and Patrick Surtain made the play of the game with the Surtain laid out and intercepted the pass and flipped things around on that moment. So that was Pat Surtain play. Bo Nix had mentioned in an interview. So big time players make big time plays and big time moments. So from that point on, Green Bay's offense stalled out 2 interceptions, 2 turnovers on downs, 1 punt, and just 1 field goal on their final 6 possessions. So right there, you saw what the interception can do. It doesn't only give the ball back to the opposing team's offense, but it shuts down momentum for that team that had it in the beginning. So Denver, meanwhile, turned the interception into points, and then, like I mentioned, the momentum as well. So talking about Bo Nix and this Bronco offense and his Bronco defense as well. So the Broncos finished strong. Packers did not. So Packers quarterback Bo Nix delivered the game of his young career. This is a young man with all that experience at the college level. It is turning over dividends right here for the Denver Broncos and Sean Payton. So 4 touchdowns to Michael Bandy, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and little Jordan Humphrey. So calm, decisive, and confident way under pressure. He knows how to handle he knows what to do in any key situation when pressure is coming down on him as a young quarterback. So 4 for 4 in the red zone. So you can't have that better. You cannot have that no better than that for being a football player, right? So perfect when it mattered most, and he did that. So Green Bay had the question marks. 1 touchdown and 4 red zone trips there, sacked 3 times, and out executed late in the game. So after McManus' field goal made it 27-26, Denver answered right back with RG's Harvey 4-yard touchdown run. I mean, pretty much icing the game there from that point on. So that right there, that's the difference between teams fighting for seeding and teams trying to hold on to get a win to still make a playoff push here. So as we started the show with Dr. David Chao, we'll talk about Micah's injury here and some of the impact and some of the things that would be different coming into this big game of the Packers versus the Bears. So everything changed when that young man got hurt on that football field, man. As soon as I saw it, like I mentioned to Dr. Chao that we had earlier on the show today, I saw what it was. I seen that knee movement, that pop so many times from different athletes, a lot of Packer athletes, Jordy Nelson back in preseason years ago. Next year, he came back and won Player of the Year. So hopefully this could be the case here for Micah Parsons here. But I believe this team has still a lot to say and a lot to do, even without their new leader that's going to be out for the game. So early in game, Parsons, but some of the things he did before he went out, he forced a fumble on Denver's opening drive, instantly showing, impact. Then while chasing Bo Nix, suddenly pulled up and collapsed. He was kind of used to, if you see where his knee was at, so went to grab his knee right away, even though grabbing a knee doesn't define it's the ACL, but he's injured. And that standpoint, I saw as an athlete, when your leg reaches out of the body frame, so that means between your shoulders and your leg is kind of in a point where it's extended, that's where a lot of the weight is going to go instead of being under your body in your frame of work. So you keep the weight of your body falling on smaller ligaments, and the smaller ligaments, like I mentioned, is like the ACL, the MCL, the PCL, meniscus in the kneecap area, kneecap area, that can all get damaged when you're trying to push off in an uncomfortable position, if that makes sense. So that happened. It became a non-contract injury, and obviously immediate concern for everybody watching the game. So for the comment that Parsons was interviewed at the end of the game, he says, "I'm sickened right now, and I would be sick too." So hopefully, I've been in that situation. I've been in a situation where I tore my quad in 2005 and had to come back I was out for the season, but knew what was going on. As soon as it popped, I knew it happened right away. So, in his head, it's a tough thing to talk about, even as a former player, when you see a player for not only a good player, but also not I say a good player for my team, the Green Bay Packers. So this is a big loss, but the season's not over. We still got a lot of football to play, and you got to remember, this Packer defense is loaded. So the biggest thing here, pushing into the next game against these Chicago Bears, is the mentality of that team and that team defense, what they must do. And it's got to be serious. It's got to be, when I say serious, it got to have that mindset of, we know we just lost one of our best leaders, one of our best players on this defense, but we still got a lot of good players and a lot of good leaders on this defense. So we got to go make a point. I say make a mark and get another win here with the Bears, and because we know we got some NFC North seeding games that are going to be huge in the next few weeks. So multiple Broncos, including, so while Parsons was down with his injury, multiple Broncos like Pat Surtain came over to console him, a sign of how much respect Parsons is. He's much respected across the NFL. Being that dude. So early predictions, obviously, last night predicted a torn ACL, so pending MRI injury, and I believe this morning it has been completely announced that he tore his ACL, is out for the year. And we got to remember, like Dr. Chao mentioned, being a rush in and very dynamic, it's going to be a long process. So if we see him, I would say maybe late October of next year would be the case. I mean, full goal, not worried about anything. But if he pushes it, we know he's going to be a fantastic hard worker to get back where he wants to be for next season in 2026, but also has to be patient and let his body heal, inside and out, and mentally as well. So then he could be that dude that he's been so far this year and the previous years as an NFL player. So this is devastating for the Packers. So Parsons has been the heartbeat of the Green Bay defense, 12 plus sacks in 5 straight seasons, constant pressure and leadership and energy all the time on that football field. So without him, everything changes. So it's going to be, everything changes systematically. So we'll see, what this defense is going to look like come Saturday night in Chicago. I'll be at that game, so I'm going to be super excited to see this game in person. So it just, I know right now it's going to be, have to wait and see. Some comments from Matt LaFleur was, nobody is going to feel sorry for us right now. And that's true. The Bears ain't going to feel sorry for us. The Vikings, the Lions, any other team facing us, Baltimore Ravens is one on that list. So everybody's going to have to elevate their gameplay now. That is the mindset. One side, as a player, you feel for your teammate and you feel for, them in this situation. The other part is like, now I got to get a little bit more locked in and get ready for what the games that are, on the rest of the season that's coming right at us. And it starts with the NFC North matchup with the Chicago Bears. So in that instance, we'll talk about some of the other injuries. We already, Dr. David Chao, we already talked about Micah Parsons' knee and Christian Watson's, shoulder chest injury there, which will be, all examined. We also, right now, Josh Wally came out with a concussion. Zach Tom, he got his knee bothering him as well. And so for the Broncos injuries, RJ Harvey, ribs, a little rib injury, they're holding back. And Justin Strand, ankle, and Brandon Droz, his pectoral muscle as well. So Green Bay depth is about to get tested in all different positions, not just the linebacker rush-in positions, especially with Chicago coming down the line, and they got another big win against the Cleveland Browns. So they have a game where they do have one up on the Packers, but the Packers have more than one up on them because they already beat the Chicago Bears in terms of you talking about playoff seeding and all that fun stuff when it comes down to breaking down who's going to have the edge going into the playoff push and playoff seeding. And you could go to FanDuel, our sponsors here on Believe in Network, to find out what the line is on that as well. So in this last segment of the show, it says what this loss means to the Packers. Like I mentioned earlier, the Packers 9-4-1, and now have a game behind Chicago. I say they're now half a game behind Chicago in the NFC North, heading into a massive showdown, another big matchup showdown in Soldier Field. So the last one was a week ago, and now 2 weeks from now, we're going to be in Chicago. So Denver clinches the playoff berth and keeps pace for the AFC top seed right now, and they're playing fantastic football with that young quarterback, Bo Nix, like I mentioned. So for Green Bay, the offense showed it can compete. The defense must now adjust without Parsons. And then red zone execution must improve for the Green Bay Packers offense. And then late game composure is still a work in progress. So when the game is on the line, if it's a tight game, that means keeping your composure. That means playing good football. That means doing what you're supposed to do, not overthinking things and not second guessing yourself. Having the confidence to go out there, run the ball, catch the ball, throw the ball, make big tackles, and execute the game plan for your coaches that they're giving you out there. All right. So this wasn't a bad loss. This was all a learning experience, but it also was a costly one because of the injuries that ensued in this game. So here, coming up in the last segment here, looking ahead, like I mentioned, we got Packers and Bears. Now it's in Chicago. We saw the game and how it went down in Lambeau Field a week ago or a few weeks ago now. So here we go. We're going to most likely be in a cold weather situation, but it's rivalry football, division on the line again. But right now, Chicago has the lead. So Green Bay some of the musts that they must do right now in this game, rally emotionally after the Parsons injury, protect Jordan Love better late in these games, and find ways to generate pressure defensively themselves. So that's them emotionally getting past Parsons' injury, mentally and physically. Rashard Gary and those guys in the defensive front seven, and then the back end with Keyshawn Nixon and Duffy and Valentine, the defensive backs, knowing what they need to do and executing on every play. So it's never going to be pretty. And that's what Love said in an interview comment there. You've got to find ways to win these games. And that's what they must do this Saturday night in Chicago. So that mindset is about to be tested for all those players in the green and gold being in Chicago this weekend. So as I close the show here, I'll say thank you for Dr. David Chao. Appreciate you coming in, giving your insight, giving good feedback, and then answering some of my questions to clarify some of the, I say medical words that he was using, because he's a doctor, using some of those. So I know now great vessels, is the bigger arteries, the veins and stuff flowing around a bone that cracks or that gets shifted, that can puncture or damage. And knowing that was not the case for Christian Watson, but just going to be, readjustment, icing, stimming, and getting them ready for the game come this Saturday against the Chicago Bears. So we'll see if Christian Watson is going to be a go. We don't know yet. Well, it's a wait and see process. So this is one of those games that we talked about before where the margins are razor thin. And Denver finished when Green Bay didn't, basically. So the bigger challenge now is responding to adversity. Losing Micah Parsons hurts, no doubt, but this is where leadership, depth, and coaching matters the most for the Packers and any professional team sitting in this situation. They lose their best player, and now everybody has to have the mindset of next man up and let's go, and we're going to go out there and win for them. So next up, Chicago, everything is still in front of this team for the Green Bay Packers. So there's nothing lost. You just got to go out there and play these games. Obviously, the favor right now and the feeling is that Parsons being gone, it's going to be a game that the Chicago Bears will most likely have a better, not saying they're going to win, but they're going to have a better chance of winning. So it's going to be interesting to see there. So if you want, go head over to FanDuel to check out the odds for this week's game for Packers on the road in Chicago. So as I always done, this is Ahman Green, Green Bay Packers, all-time leading rushing, and you're watching Believe in Packers. So stay locked in. And you know what, Packer fans? Go Pack, go. Talk to y'all next week when we get a big win in Chicago over these Bears. Talk to you later.